I stopped caring what other people think. I mean, I'm sure I care at some level, but I mean, my kids are just astounded that I was able to do what I did. I walked out of the middle of a big social construct. I was president of everything, the garden club, the tennis association, the children's health care of the foundation. I mean, I was in the middle of that. And in COVID, I walked out of everything. But I believe to fully start new, you actually have to make that move and close all of the doors so the new ones can open. Because if you still have energy coming in from your past life, the former life you had, you can't really fully walk into the next door. So I really had to go into this void space, and it was just all trust. And I was able just to trust in life to know that it was all going to be okay. And for some reason, I had that in me to do it. And I just knew I had to do it, and I had the courage to do it. I'm so glad I did.
Welcome to the House of Jermar podcast, where wellness starts within. The House of Jermar is a lifestyle brand empowering women to live all in through interior design and personal wellness. We are a destination for women ready to reimagine what is possible in their homes and lives and then create it. We are honored to have you join us on our mission to empower 1 million women to live all in. I am your host, Jean Collins, and I invite you to become inspired by this week's guest. Welcome to the House of Jermar podcast, where wellness starts within. I'm your host, Jean Collins, and today's guest is Rebecca Parris. So guys, I am so excited for this. I just met Rebecca, and we are going to talk about consciousness. Oh my goodness, there's so much to talk about. So she has a company called risingthevibe.org, and I can't wait to hear about her journey. She does so many cool things. She offers services about meditation. We're going to talk about gene keys, because that I'm really fascinated about, and a whole host of other things. And I personally am fascinated to find out how she got into the field that she got into. So Rebecca, welcome to the show.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And sometimes I love when I have guests on that I don't really know, that I haven't interacted with before, because I'm going to learn as my audience is learning as well, which is really exciting. So let's first start off. How did you get to where you are now? What was your career journey and your career path? Because it's never as linear as people might think.
No, I feel like I've lived probably 4 lives in this life. I started out with a very traditional path, went to the University of Virginia, studied marketing and management, getting into advertising, worked on Delta Airlines, became vice president of United Way in Atlanta. And then kind of did all the things that, are outlined in what I call the 3D matrix that you do for success. Got married, had 2 kids. So I was like doing it all, feeling like, okay, I've got this life down. And then at some point, you start realizing that there's some emptiness and some things aren't the way that you think they are. And I just had an awakening probably in 2017, where I just got these downloads from my higher self that, life is not just chaos, but it's just a divine unfolding of something that's coming up, and that the world, the 5 senses that you base your full reality on are just the very basic ones. And it's so unlimited about what else is going on in the world. So that's the nutshell.
Where were you in your life stage that you were able to recognize that the universe was talking to you in this way? Because for many people, they struggle to understand or to tap into when the universe is speaking to them, or know that the universe is speaking to them. So where were you in your life at that time in your spiritual journey that you were able to see that message?
It was not too long ago. I'm 59 right now, and it was probably, 7 years ago. And I lived a very surface, just base reality life. I became a portrait artist after raising my children. So I really got into that flow of the art, which I think was important to me. I guess the opening started when, I was living this idyllic life, but I had 2 children that really were, I would say, multidimensional, very sensitive children, ADHD, had a hard time with school. And just that challenge opened me up to just the pain of fitting in the box of the school system and so forth. So I was going through a lot of pain in that regard of trying to help my children navigate this world that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense in my new view of life. And then I had this moment where I was out walking the dog. I was talking to my daughter who was in college, and she was explaining something, this coincidence that I could tell that couldn't be a coincidence. And it opened me up to be like, oh, and it just opened a crack for me to see that there's something more. And then I took that opening and I got back and I kept hearing, and hadn't really heard it in this way before. You have a purpose. You have a purpose. Like, okay, this is like a new voice coming in. I'm like, I have a purpose. All right. I'm a portrait artist. I'm a mom. What else? I asked myself two questions. One came out of like the higher version of me. And the question was, how does energy between all things interrelate? And then the second question was, what do all religions and spirituality throughout time and culture have in common? So these two questions came in. I'm like, okay. And so I am an avid book reader. I was head of a book club for 20 years, before book clubs were even a thing. And read, I was reading fiction, once a month. And so I just turned all of my attention onto really understanding the intersection between science and spirituality, because I needed to have that science, something logical, because I have a very logical brain too, as well as the artist brain. So I've got both, but I needed the science to help me enter in the world of woo-woo. And that gets to my book, which I might have to share early, which is The Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton, which really talks about how your cells are listening to your consciousness and how that your body is changing based on your consciousness. So it opened me up to say, oh, I see how, the world of magic, which is really just science we don't understand, how that works, and open to consciousness and what consciousness is.
And then where did you decide, okay, I've learned all this. I'm going to do this for a living. This is going to become my business. I'm going to step into being an entrepreneur.
Right.
And I'm going to talk about consciousness, which many people have absolutely no idea what that is.
I know. I just felt this I read probably for a year, just nonstop. And it just this passionate urge to know that I have to speak about it, because it's, to me, the most important thing, because consciousness is everything. And you're living this empty life otherwise. And until you have some awareness of that we're really just spiritual beings in this human body, it's the key to empowerment. It's the key to all relationships in life. And I just got the urge. So I've got, again, the universe is speaking to you, and it often comes through your friends and other people. And I got the message from 3 different people within about 2 weeks is, you should start a book club around spirituality. So it's Raising the Vibe started as a spiritual book club. And I started gathering the people in my country club in Atlanta that I knew. And I knew that some of them were, open to this. And then so I started saying, I've had this awakening experience. They're like, oh, really? And then they told me about some of the other people. And we gathered as a group at my house and came up with the name Raising the Vibe. And it started as a book club for a year. And the first book we read was Power versus Force by Dr. David Hawkins, which is a great entree. It's a little complex, but it really talks about the scale of consciousness, which is so key to understand. And we can talk about that later if you're not familiar with that. But anyway, so the book club started. A year later, I went to the Eckhart Tolle conference, and, he's the author of The Power of Now, which is another incredible book.
Huge book. Yes.
Yeah, about presence, and then understanding the ego is separate from your divine self. So I got the urge again. I'm a very action-oriented person. So when I get an idea, I go with it. I'm a manifester in my human design. So I'm like, all right, now we're going to transition this into a nonprofit, and we're going to have speakers, and we're going to bring more people into it. So this was in Atlanta, and we had speakers about all sorts of consciousness things in a very in a world that wasn't used to it. It was just a very kind of elite world that wasn't really interested. It's not like the hippie community. It was,
Right.
the country club community.
Exactly. Very Southern country club. Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. And you're starting to talk about spirituality and woo and ego. Well, wow. Yes. Kudos to you.
That started raising the vibe. And then it's transitioned now to more just a resource for a website. COVID hit. I ended up consciously uncoupling from my husband that I was married to for 27 years and had the soul urge that I've just been following the breadcrumbs and just following my intuition because that's the only thing to seem to make sense at this point. And I got the urge that I need to move to the Asheville area. So I've been here for 5 years.
Wow. Okay. That's a big move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So talk to me about how you then moved into the components of offering the services that you do around consciousness.
Early on, I was introduced to the Gene Keys. And I don't know, I know you said you're interested in it, but you don't, do you know anything about it?
I do not. So we have to dig into what those are.
It's an amazing transmission, but some people are familiar with human design or the I Ching. I don't know if you're familiar with
human
that.
design, I'm definitely familiar with.
Okay. So Richard Rudd is the founder of the Gene Keys. He's a mystic. He studied human design and wrote books on human design in that world for 7 years. Studied with Ra Uru Hu, the guy who brought that in.
Yep.
Then he had this 3 days of a total download of a transition, which really, the Gene Key stands on the shoulders of human design. And it really ties the I Ching, the archetype, the 64 archetypes that's part of human design and the I Ching. And he adds in some astrology as well as the DNA and how your DNA actually codes to these 64 archetypes. So being a science geek as well as loving that whole intersection, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. So you get your profile by putting in your birth date, your birthplace, your birth time, and you get like a profile that says, here's your main key for your life's work. Here's your biggest challenge. Here's your radiance, like what keeps you healthy, and here's your purpose, along with all these other keys inside of it to help you to pull your dharma and karma together to actually create your life purpose and your dream. So it gives you a blueprint of who you are, which I absolutely loved. So that's how I got into the Gene Keys. I studied it for 7 years. I became a guide 4 years ago because I just really resonated with the teachings because of he's an expert at blending the right brain and the left brain, which I think is so important, that meditation piece with the logic, because a lot of times people are stuck in one or the other and they need both to work together.
Yes. So how do you work with your clients to get them to understand how the Gene Keys relate to them and their behaviors and how they process life too? It's not just behaviors. It's also, I feel like, how you move through life, how you process life.
Absolutely. So we would start with, because the hologenic profile is fairly complex, we would just start with the 4 main keys: your life's work, your evolution, your purpose, and your radiance. And we do a deep dive into them. And so they'd send me the profile and then I'd prepare. But it's really a conversation and it's a transmission. So it's beyond a reading of what I'm doing. It's really getting them to contemplate, where in life they were in their shadow. So each key has, there's many frequencies in the world. And Richard Rudd has allocated him to like 3 main frequencies. One is the shadow. That's the seed of, when you're kind of in the lower vibes, but it's really the seed of your awakening. There's the gift frequency when you start coming in out of the shadow and really feeling like you can do things in life. And there's the Siddhi frequency, SIDDHI, which is basically you at your essence with no interference at all. It's like this divine saintly trait that you have. And each of these 4 gene keys are your genius, your unique genius. So we really talk about, like, I go through it and I talk about each, and there's also like a line in the I Ching about how that relates. And we just start having a conversation and I'm like, does this there's either a repressive side or a reactive side of the shadow. And then we just start going into, I'd say what they are, and I'd get them to reflect on, were you in repressive or do you still in your shadow? Were you in your shadow? How have you gotten out of that? Where do you see yourself now? And they'll just get these epiphanies like, oh, no wonder, and it also makes people feel better to know that it's not their fault, that they were imprinted with this at birth. And so it's like, this is my journey I'm walking. And you don't feel so guilty about having to go through some of these negative things. Like if you have addiction in your gene keys, you're like, oh, no wonder I had to go through addiction to get to where I am.
Did it help you when you went through your divorce? Because after being married, what'd you say, 27 years? That's a long time.
It is a long time. And he's a good guy. I had a good life,
Right.
and it really helped me because it helped me tie into that I had a greater purpose, and no relationship is more important than the one you have with your soul.
Mhm.
And that's what got me through, because I knew he's a great guy. He's a great relationship, but I could not, knowing what I know about life and the connection to spirit, I could not continue on without doing everything I could to fully connect to my higher realms, my soul. And I
Right.
knew that I had a purpose to help awaken people and consciousness. I just couldn't see people go through so much suffering and not even realize that consciousness is a thing and that they have actual control of their life. They are not a victim of this world. They are a co-creator of this world, and they can be sovereign. With that knowledge, I had to do everything I can to bring that to the world.
Did it feel selfish in some ways? Or did people look at you like you were being selfish?
Yeah. First, I went through that, but then I really got to a point, and it's hard to get to, but I stopped caring what other people think. And I'm like,
I love it.
I'm sure I care at some level, but
Of course.
my kids are just astounded that I was able to do what I did. I walked out of the middle of a big social construct. I was president of everything, the
Right.
garden club, the tennis association, the children's health care of the foundation. I was in the middle of that. And in COVID, I walked out of everything,
Of all of it.
all of
To
it,
start new. To
to
start
start
new.
new. But I believe to fully start new, you actually have to make that move and close all of the doors so the new ones can open. Because if you still have energy coming in from your past life, the former life you had, you can't really fully walk into the next door. So I really had to go into this void space, and it was just all trust. And I was able just to trust in life to know that it was all going to be okay. And for some reason, I had that in me to do it. And I just knew I had to do it, and I had the courage to do it. I'm so glad I did.
Which is beautiful because so many people don't have the courage to do it, and they stay stuck and they don't move, and they, out of fear of closing the doors. But you are so right. I've spoken to so many people, and also from my own personal experience, realized sometimes you have to close those doors in order for the new ones to open, in order to get closer to your highest self and closer to your purpose.
Absolutely.
And so I commend you for walking that journey and for being willing to share that, because I think that does inspire people that maybe they too could keep doing that. So let's talk about energy. How do you help your clients figure out the role that energy needs to play in their life?
Well, I think it's first realizing that your outer reality is really a mirror of your inner reality. And I know with you and interior design, it's important. And you just kind of see what's showing up each day, because if you stop and look at the little things that are showing up each day, your higher self is guiding you all the time. And it's about stopping and, first of all, just pausing first. So in the midst of, like, let's say you're yelling at somebody, and all of a sudden the Gene Keys advises, okay, pause instead of reacting. Take a minute so you're not just in reaction mode, that you just like are able to respond. And then you sit back and you inquire, what is going on here? Why was I so triggered by that when there was really no need for that? And then you just allow that right brain to open up. So that's the left brain asking the question. The right brain goes, Oh, you just sit in silence for a minute to just really let whatever needs to come in, come in. And then often with patience and gentleness and in divine timing, you'll start getting the answers to start breaking through these patterns that are just neurologically wired. You know, what wires together, fires together, Joe Dispenza.
Right.
So you're
Yeah.
just on this pattern, but you have to be able to pause to break your pattern. So
Right.
that's what I advise people to do, and to look at their everyday life and see what's showing up right now and just contemplating what's going on.
And you mentioned paying attention. Very often we're just busy, and let's be honest, we, especially as women who are working and moms and somewhere in there's time for self and spouse and everything else. We're just busy.
Mm-hmm.
And not enough people do take that pause
Right.
to actually listen to what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's talk about meditation.
Mm-hmm.
I sense that you are a big fan of meditation.
I am. I had a hard time with it, honestly, because I'm one of those busy people that it just constantly needed. I was really polarized in my masculine energies, which is the doing. And so I really that was the thing I had to work towards. So like I was in this very active life, and then I'm pretty much sitting on top of a mountain with very little interaction with people. So it's forced me to sit with myself. So I do love guided meditations. That's a great way to get started. The music really helps. And then, just sitting. And it doesn't have to be, oh, I've got to fight off these thoughts that keep coming in. It's really about allowing in, oh, it's just trying to tell me what's there. And so I would just encourage people. I love Insight Timer. They've got great meditations. So start there if you're new to it, and just give yourself some patience to get going if you have a hard time meditating. So I love the guided ones, and just making it a habit each day, starting slow and starting with just shorter ones.
I agree. Couldn't agree more. So let's talk about something that was very interesting that was written down about something we could talk about. And I have no idea what this even means. So activating your dormant DNA. I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. Okay, cool. I don't even know what that is. So I'm going to learn along with all the listeners. What in the world is that?
Yes. Well, I believe that humanity is divine and that we got disconnected. So scientists call this junk DNA. Do we think it's really junk? No, it's a DNA that's not coding correctly.
Okay.
The ACGT, the letters that are coding. So we have all this that they've determined was junk DNA. It's not junk DNA. It's just, the DNA that's not coding. And the way to do that, I mean, there's many ways, but it's really that whole getting back to self and start getting out of the matrix. Because I read this book, The Matrix Resurrections, from that movie. It's like really stepping out of what I call more the engineered reality and stepping into the natural world. And when you step into the frequency of the natural world, you're automatically going to start coding that DNA. When you're starting to meditate, you're paying attention to the frequencies that are going in your body. And the frequencies are what you eat, the company you keep, the entertainment you imbibe with, the location you're in. So everything's energy, everything's a frequency, and it really helps to activate these higher parts of you, like basically activating the DNA is bringing the spirit body and matching it with the physical body as like ascension. So that's what the activating the DNA is. And then it's just creating almost more pixels of awareness. When you have more activated DNA, you can have a higher perspective of what's going on in the world. And being, as Jesus said, being in the world, but not of it.
Yeah.
And really being able to see things from a more godly view, unconditional love. And it's just bringing that heart back online. So there's many ways to do it, but it's realizing what your environment is, what you're allowing in every day to dictate what your reality is. You have the power to change your reality by what you interface with, and each single choice you make every day. I mean, every minute.
Of which there are thousands of those choices. Thousands, right? So you mentioned the word matrix. You also had down something about organic matrix versus inorganic. I might not even be getting that correct, but I was like, oh, I saw the word organic written, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's also interesting. I've never even heard of any of this. So
Not
talk to
many
me about
people have.
organic. I love it, but I'm so excited to learn. Talk to me about navigating organic versus inorganic matrix. I want to say it's reality, but I might be getting that wrong.
Yeah. And I think we are energetic beings, and there's many spiritual scientists that have talked about we're in a hologram, we're energy, kind of interacting with energy in our own like VR glasses. So the ego, you've heard the ego and the higher self, like Eckhart Tolle really talks about
Yep.
the ego. The
Yes.
ego is the part of the self that interacts with the inorganic matrix, the
Okay.
programs. They're almost
Yep.
like you're a program and you've identified with an identity. Let's say your identity is a teacher or a vegan or a mother, or, you connected to a Hollywood star. So you're connecting your energy to a program, and you're kind of at the mercy of all of what that means. Like if I'm a vegan, I need to do this and this and this. If I'm a hippie, I need to act like this and this and this. But you're just buying into that almost like a program and a video game. And the idea is that's not who you really are. So you're trying to tap into an identity to fit into this society we're in. But in reality, your spiritual self's trying to whisper to you, we're more than that. We're more than that. You don't have to be one of these things. You can just be your authentic self. And you really do have to navigate more the organic matrix, which is connecting into the heart, bringing in the frequencies of the healthy food, the better environment, the media that's not going to bring you down. It's all about frequency. And it's that David Hawkins talks about the level of consciousness. So are you familiar with that, or do you think your readers?
I am, but why don't you talk about what that is? Because just because I know doesn't mean that anybody else does.
No. Yeah. So this was really instrumental for me to understand consciousness. So Dr. David Hawkins is a psychiatrist who's passed on the last few years, but he's written many books, one Power versus Force, but he goes into the, through muscle testing, and muscle testing really is like your body through your muscles will either go strong or weak when a substance or a thought comes to mind. Like artificial sweetener, everybody goes weak. Healthy organic food, people go strong. So your muscles are actually giving you the answers to whether this is good for you or not. So he, through muscle testing, came up with these levels of consciousness. And the lowest level is shame. And it's at 20. And there's a scale from 20 to 1,000. 1,000 being, Buddha, Jesus, people who are the avatars here who figured it out, right?
Yep.
And so we're all resonating somewhere on that scale.
Between 20 and 1,000. That's a big range.
It is a big range. And anything under 200 is anti-life. So you are not progressing forward or you're not moving in a healthy way if your base frequency is under 200. And there you have guilt, shame, anger, fear. And most people start out that way. I started out that way. And then you slowly, through building your consciousness and making your choices and meditate, you start realizing that you need to get into the heart, and it's really about love. And you're getting yourself to actually vibrate faster into these higher frequencies. So the lower frequencies are slow moving, dense waves, the red spectrum, and you're then getting up to ultraviolet. And
yes,
I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
but
no, Joe Dispenza talks about those waves, whatever they're called. I'm not a scientist, I can't remember, but he talks about those waves and being able to read your brain and see how your brain is reacting at those higher waves, which happens when you get into a deeper form of meditation.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is fascinating.
And that's what, I realized, life to me is not about accumulating material wealth or status or being president of this or building relationships. It's about raising your vibration. Thus, the name of my nonprofit is Raising the Vibe. I believe it's everything. Raising your vibration is the key to health, wealth, and happiness.
Yeah, sure.
And people don't understand that that's even a thing.
Yeah, of course not.
Right.
Oh, they have no idea.
No.
And I'm a pretty spiritual person and I read a lot, but some of the stuff that was sent to me about you, I was like, I don't even know what this is. Like, wow, this is so cool. And you clearly are a student of this subject. How do you decide what to learn?
Just whatever comes in. I mean, it's just like whatever I'm attracted to. Like one thing will open a door to the other thing. Like at first I was reading like Codependent No More, like you get some of the, like I was in a codependent relationship with my 2 children. I felt that, like I felt at the base level unworthy or whatever. And then if I can have some sort of connection with them, and then they needed the help. So it was just this rescue or victim thing. And getting out of the whole pyramid of the rescue victim perpetrator, and it's just like, get out of that whole system because nobody's healthy. And then it took me like 5 years to kind of unwind their energy from my field because I realized they're adults now, I need to do me now and I've got to help them become more independent. So starting there, and then you just, whatever's coming in and let people recommend things. I just listen to what's coming in my field and just love the science part. I guess I have like an antenna for that. So I think DNA is almost like your antennas to the world. Like what you have the universal field, right? And your DNA is kind of like what you're tuning into. So it's like radio stations to me. So you can tune into the lower frequency and be in shame and guilt, and you can start blaming other people, or you can just start by raising your vibration, slowly tuning in to these other stations that are all here right now.
Right. You don't have to create them. You just have to tune into them. It's a beautiful analogy because it makes it really easy for people to understand and to visualize, oh, wow, it's more if you're just shifting your vibration, shifting your focus, I would say also, right? Shifting what you are paying attention to even within your day or within your hour, then you can attract different things and have new things come in.
Absolutely. Well, the biggest thing I did was turn off the news 6 years ago.
Brilliant. Smartest idea ever.
Any news.
You don't need to. Someone else will tell you. Someone will tell you if there's something going on.
And it's not true anyway.
You'll know. Someone will tell you if something earth-shattering or world-shattering happens, you will not be out of the know.
Right. Because that news is inherently fear-based. And if you are tuning into that, you are going to be tuning into that fear base, which is like the level of 100. So you get to choose every day where you put your intention and attention. That is the key to life.
Yeah. So what does a day look like for you then?
Yeah. So I'm blessed to be on my own up on a mountain, and not everybody has that at this point in their life. But I wake up and I'm all about intentions, and I intend to let my higher self lead the way, and I make sure that is clear. I have an altar and I do some transformational work, but I'm always doing that. I've listened to a meditation. I get on, eat some breakfast, and then I journal for 5 to 10 minutes, just whatever's coming out. And then, we'll do either some spiritual, like courses that I've, subscribed to, or I'll do work on my business, or, connect with my family, get outside. I'm blessed to be, on a mountain, and I would get out and walk up the hills, or I love yoga as well. I'm getting back into doing yoga. So I have a blessed life that I'm able to focus. I've gotten to a point at this age too, that I'm able to focus on my physical health and my spiritual health, and then my business is there as well. That it's just really all about balance. Health is about balancing mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I can feel your energy. You feel incredibly calm. It's like, ooh, I want to go to your mountain. Geez, you have this incredible calm about you. What happens? I mean, life happens, right? And everyone can't live in a state of high energy, calm, unless you're a monk and you don't interact, you just sit there. So what happens when something tough comes up? Because it just does. That's just life. We have difficult times. How do you tap into your knowledge and your skills and what you do to help you get back to the energy that I feel today?
Yes. Good question, because it definitely happens, especially in relationship to my children more than anything, because they go through it. And I as an empathetic being like we all are, just feel their pain, right? And so oftentimes I have to get off the phone with my children and I'm just going to have to sit there and I'm going to allow myself to feel it wherever it is. I say, okay, my heart is very constricted right now. And I'm going to breathe into that. And then I'm just going to allow that to speak and ask if there's anything it needs to say and just be with that. Be with the pain, be with the frustration, be with the heartache. And usually it will pass within a minute or two if you allow it. But what the problem is, people's repressing this. They distract themselves, they don't allow it to be, and they don't allow it to move out of their light body.
Sure, of course. They just move on to another task without ever dealing or acknowledging or feeling that emotion, because we become a society that doesn't want to feel. We only want to feel the good. We don't want to feel the bad.
The keys to feel, and we have all these pharmaceutical medications that are getting you not to feel anything. So you never get it out of your body. It's just repress, and it shows up in your subconscious, and your subconscious runs your world. So it's just really allowing yourself to feel it. And I think this is maybe this Zen Buddhist statement, but this too shall pass. Like, I just know that, hey, I'm feeling this right now, but it's not always going to be like this. It will pass. And then pretty soon, I can, listening to music always helps me as well, or getting outside. Getting outside in nature is a key to getting into that organic matrix, because nature is the organic. The inorganic is these frequencies, the 5G, the living in a city. It's really hard because you have a lot of static, chaos energy from the city and all the electronics and the EMFs.
Right.
So that's kind of a little bit with the organic and inorganic. But getting in nature can really help just reset you as well.
Of course. I always find my best business ideas come to me when I go out and go for a walk outside. There's something about just removing myself from the environment and just focusing on the nature around me and going for a walk. And it's amazing how I solve so many business challenges when I walk. It's unbelievable.
Yes.
It's cool. And it's cool when it happens and you realize it and then you're like, okay, wait, I need to go do that again. Let's go do that again and let's see what else comes up about what I should be doing. Or like, all my brilliant ideas come when I'm walking.
Yeah, I was on the walk when it hit me about, oh, this is not the reality I know, is there's more to it. And it was on a walk with the dog and it's just popped in. But the other thing I love about the law, we're creating our own realities, right? It's so interesting that I got connected to you. I'm spending a lot of my time right now creating, I'm building a house. So I'm designing, I've designed it. It's the foundations being put in this week. And I'm looking at all of these, vanities and kitchen ideas. And it's just like interior design has just been a joy and a passion for me for these last few months. So of course I'm going to attract you to do this podcast with, because my joy is going into building my house, and everything on the outside is a reflection of the inside, as you know. So it's like almost like I'm getting to build my own spiritual house, my own place, my sanctuary to be me, where I'm not overgiving and just doing for everybody else. And that was my life's path, is doing for everything else. And then coming back to know I've got to have good boundaries, and self-love is the biggest lesson I think I've learned. And martyrdom is not a form of love.
No. Oh, no. And that's so beautiful, because honestly, it's so creative, designing your home and really thinking and making conscious decisions about the different things that will be in your home, and the materials and the colors and the textures and even the size and scope. How high are the ceilings? Does that make you feel open, or does it make it feel like you're floating and you don't feel grounded? And everyone is different. Everyone has a different viewpoint. Some people love a 12-foot ceiling, and other people are like, oh my goodness, I feel like this little minion peanut running around the room because the ceilings are so high. And it's different for everyone. And I love to help people, just like you're experiencing it, connect to what that energy is for them, because it is unique for everyone. And the more in tune people in general, everyone can become in terms of their environment and their own energy and what they're putting out, and recognizing what's around them. Like, is that giving back what you want me to be putting out? And just having a conscious awareness of that instead of just going through the motions, I think is so powerful. Oh, so I love that. So would you mind talking to me? Who is your ideal client to come and work with you for your sessions? And you do a lot of things. You also have a course. I want to talk about that too.
I think the people that probably would be most beneficial to work with me who've had similar lives. People who are in the middle of making a big life change and maybe too scared to do it. People who are in a marriage that doesn't seem to fit anymore and talking about what that looks like to be independent. People who have neurodiverse children. I've done that and understand what it's like to navigate this world with these very sensitive, godlike beings who don't
Yeah.
necessarily fit into the systems here. Also do anybody who's really also looking for what is their higher purpose, and the gene keys are a wonderful tool to really understand who they are and what they're here to do in life.
Well, and I always say I work with a business coach, and he always says you're best positioned to serve the person that you once were.
Yes,
And I truly
exactly.
believe that really helps guide us into in our entrepreneurial journeys who our ideal target audience is, because we have empathy and understanding for where someone is in their journey. It's
Absolutely.
everybody's journey is unique and their story is unique, but having a degree of empathy and understanding for where they are in that journey, I think, is important and can
Mhm.
really provide us the ability to really help people.
Yes, couldn't agree
Yeah.
more.
So talk to me about your course.
Yes. So this is for those people who are serious about their spiritual journeys. I would say it's somebody who has awakened to a certain level to understand kind of the nature of reality a little bit. That are open to letting go of everything they think they know and
Mhm.
opening up to maybe a whole new way of looking at things. We talk about a lot about the science and spirituality part of this world and realities. It's the nature of our reality, the holographic universe we talk about, the miraculous human body. We get into more of that DNA, that
Yep.
non-coding DNA, and how DNA works. And it's not just the way the scientists here talk about it. Talk about the ego versus the divine self and navigating the organic versus inorganic. And we use movies like it's all out there in our movies, really, like the Truman Show, the Matrix movies, and you can, and Free Guy. I don't know if you've seen any of these,
Yes,
but
I've
you
heard of it.
see
Yep.
these characters that are kind of stuck in a reality and you see how they navigate. Like the Truman Show, he ends up getting in the boat, dealing with his biggest fears, crossing the water, and then ascending up the ladder. So that's just a beautiful example of what we're trying to do here. So we use these kind of analogies in the course to help people understand, to make it real. And then
Yeah.
ascension tools. Some of the ascension tools are really the physical detox of the body that, I got to later. I was really more into the mental and this scientific. And then it took me a while to really get down to, oh my gosh, I really got to deal with the physical body, and the body is the temple for ascension. So dealing with parasite cleanses, what you eat, all the supplements that you need. I
Yeah.
mean, there's so many levels to ascension. So we kind of talk about the physical, mental, spiritual ways, and it's about choice points. It's, all the different things to help you actually move from the inorganic ego
Right.
to the
Yes.
divine self, navigating your beautiful organic reality that's here. It's just a different station, and we help people tune into the different station that's out there ready to be embodied.
Yes. Well, and I love you kind of touched a little bit by talking about it, but it's a holistic experience. It's mind,
Mhm.
body, spirit. You've mentioned that multiple times when we've spoken. And so it isn't just about focusing on your spirituality. It's also focusing on how are you taking care of your body and how are you taking care of your mind? Are you challenging your mind? Are you reading? Are you growing? Are you having new experiences? Are the people around you helping you to grow your mind, body, and spirit? And it's very holistic. Everything, like every specialty like you and what you do, it's not just one thing. It's coming to the
Right.
table with a desire to embrace all of you and all facets of you to really help yourself find your purpose, your passion, your calling, and your best life.
Perfectly said. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Okay. So before we go, two things for you. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you want to make sure we communicate to the audience?
I guess the one thing is, one, we have to know that we are sovereign beings and that we do co-create a reality. And when we're in victim mode, we have no power. So it's really making sure that you're not being a victim to what is going on in the outside, and that you own your place in it and you can create your own reality bubble in it. The other
Right.
thing is knowing that balance is really the key to ascension. And it's balancing your right and left brain and your masculine and feminine energies. It's really making sure that the doing is balanced by the being. And some people are more naturally into the being and some people are more naturally into the doing, but really try to pay attention to the way you live your life and coming into more balance between your masculine and feminine energies, because everybody has both. And the key is to balance them to create wholeness.
Ah, and that's such an important reminder. I know for myself personally, there are times where I'm like, oh my goodness, there's too much masculine energy. There's just too much do. And I need to spend a little time and some calm. And then other times I'm in the calm and I'm like, okay, you are not being productive enough. Like you gotta like, get to it. Start doing the stuff that you're avoiding doing and get on with it here. Mm-hmm. So it's such a beautiful reminder. Thank you so much. So you've mentioned a whole bunch of books, which are so fantastic, and I'm going to put them all in the show notes. But are there any other, could be one, could be two, whatever, books that you would recommend our listeners read?
The Journey of Souls. I think some of your other people might have said that. And then
is he an Eckhart? That's an Eckhart Tolle book,
no,
right?
I think it's Michael Singer.
Oh, yes. Right. Yep.
Or, no,
Michael Singer.
I'm not sure. Journey of Souls might even be somebody else. But and then Michael Singer is the surrender experiment. And if the people who are really into the doing, when he just surrendered and let life come to him, that was powerful. Yeah. I have a whole curated list by topic, like First Awakening, Science and Spirituality, Channel Messages. I've got hundreds of books that I actually personally read that are on Raising the Vibe, and they're under resources, under book recommendations. I also have movie recommendations. So raisingthevibe.org. And then I have my personal website is RebeccaParris.com. And that's where all of, you can learn about my course, my coaching, anything I do. I have a bunch of blogs on both sites. So I have both sites. One's the Raising the Vibe is just a nonprofit. It's my gift to humanity. It's just there to have all these resources that I found for people wherever they are to help them at the next step of their journey. And then my personal business is RebeccaParris.com.
Oh, which I love that. Thank you. And I'll put all of that in the show notes.
Thanks.
And I thank you for your time. So my one comment to the listeners, right? So I met Rebecca. I didn't know anything about her, really did not know much about what she does. And I think it's really fascinating. And I thank you for coming on the show. But being someone like you, where I heard from the universe that I was supposed to be doing something different, and I acted on that. And so I would say to all of the listeners, if you've heard anything that Rebecca's spoken about that piques your interest, please listen to that. That is the universe talking. And whether that means you go and you hire Rebecca, or you reach out to her, you go to her website, you sign up for her course, you read a book that she recommends, it just takes you on a different journey. So if any of this has piqued some interest, I encourage you, that is the universe talking to you. So pay attention. Thank you, Rebecca. It has truly been a pleasure to have you on the show. I'm excited to stay connected with you. I'll put everything in the show notes so everyone can find you. Great. And thank you again. I hope you have a beautiful day, and congratulations on being so brave to take the journey that you are now on.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, we'll talk soon. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the House of Jermar podcast, where wellness starts within. We appreciate you being a part of our community and hope you felt inspired and motivated by our guest. If you enjoyed this episode, please write us a review and share it with friends. Building our reach on YouTube and Apple Podcasts will help us get closer to our mission to empower 1 million women to live all in. You can also follow us on Instagram at House of Jermar and sign up to be a part of our monthly inspiration newsletter through our website, houseofjermar.com. If you or someone you know would be a good guest on the show, please reach out to us at podcast@houseofjermar.com. This has been a House of Jermar production with your host, Jean Collins. Thank you for joining our house.